Hey everybody, time for another midweek chat. We'll see how this one goes. I hope you were able to check out that special edition I did in collaboration with Father Lindner over there in Wausau. We did it on Zoom, so I was in here and he was there, and then we interviewed Saher from Bethlehem. And he told us a little bit about the L'Arche community that we support. I just heard from Rania over there, and it was nice to hear from her. She wasn't sure if we ordered, which purses we ordered on page 9 of their catalog. And I said, unfortunately, I threw the catalog away. I don't know. So send us whatever you think is most beautiful. So hopefully they'll get that sent out. The other shop in Bethlehem that we use to sell things, I think they were able to get it shipped. I heard it's with FedEx in Tel Aviv airport now. So they're in the West Bank, both these places in the West Bank, and so there was kind of doubtful if this would be able to happen. So if you don't, we usually have like a little Christmas bazaar that supports people in Bethlehem that live under a lot of stress and financial challenges. So hopefully we can make that happen. By the way, we had a collection in church last weekend, and as I announced, it would be half of what was collected to go to Catholic Relief Services, which is always on the forefront of international relief efforts, and certainly you can target it. So do this for victims of the Gaza war, where we can help on either side there where there's need for that. So half will go there, and half will go toward the L'Arche Bethlehem community that makes these woolen crafts. And they said they got our first payment. I did a bank wire, and so that was good. We were glad, because part of that interview they said that they sent a bill to the utility or something, a check, and it came back insufficient funds. So that's where I said, hopefully you'll get our deposit, and they did. So anyway, so God willing, we'll be able to have that little display of goods from Bethlehem to sell to folks come in a few weeks. Thanks to Gail and Sharon and Rita for helping with that. Let's see. But so that collection, it looks like with some people contacted the office and said, like so many people said, we wanted to give to the collection, but we don't carry cash, and how can we give? And so Ann set up on our website, if you go to click the donations tab, there's a special place you can donate to the Holy Land Relief. Says something like that. So again, half will go to Catholic Relief Services, and half will go to the L'Arche community in Bethlehem that creates community for people with intellectual disabilities. And those without those disabilities work together, play together, sing together, pray together. It's a beautiful thing. I volunteered there when I was on sabbatical, and I just really was touched by the community that was formed there. And so, boy, I wanted to say, I mentioned the bulletin, I think, but the Arabic name, we call it just the L'Arche community. It's part of L'Arche International. It's an international movement started in France. So L'Arche means the ark, and so an ark where all the creatures were together and in community, two of each species, right? Noah's Ark. So in Arabic, the language that is spoken in Bethlehem, they call it Man Lil Hayat. Man Lil Hayat. And that means, as Sahir told us last week, together for life. Together for life. Which is beautiful. I mean, that's what we all long for. That's why marriages are so beautiful and weddings are so touching. It's two people that are committed to being together for the rest of their lives, and loving like God loves us. And it's hard to pull off that kind of commitment. And but that's what those places will always have a second home. I mean, the people there will always have a second home. Place they can count on being there. So anyway, through our help our relief efforts for them, that helps make that a reality. I mentioned Together for Life. I guess I wrote this in the bulletin too. If you watch the video chat, you can save time. You don't have to read the bulletin. No, you should read the bulletin, because there's all kinds of great stuff in there, plus things that I didn't say on the chat. But you know who's from Bethlehem in the Bible, when I heard Together for Life, I think right away of Ruth. So the book of Ruth, she was married to a daughter of Naomi, and so was Orpah. If you probably heard this, but Oprah, the famous Oprah Winfrey, she was named after Orpah in the Bible, but they got the spelling off by a letter. So instead of Orpah, it was Oprah. Little trivia there. Anyway, but both Orpah's, they were both the sons of Naomi. Both Orpah's husband and Ruth's husband died, and Naomi was also a widow, and so they were going to stay with Naomi and take care of her. And Naomi, noble woman, good woman, they were living in Moab, which is in Jordan today, southeast of Jerusalem. And Naomi says to the daughter, she goes, I know you want to help me and stay with me, but really, you got your own lives to live. If you just stick with me, your future's bleak, So stay here, find a new husband, get a life, have children, because neither of them had children yet. And so go away. And Orpah said, okay, see ya. So maybe she was glad to hear that news. And but Ruth said, no, are you kidding? I'm going to stay with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And I remember I took a Hebrew class in the seminary, and we worked through the book of Ruth, and I didn't really know that quote, and so I was translating it word by word, and I got to that, look with the dictionary, your people will be my Haim people. Where you lodge, I will lodge. I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. It's so inspiring. And then when I got to your God will be my God, I just like, wow. It just kept growing and touching my heart, that beautiful fidelity of Ruth. So it's not a marriage, but sometimes you hear the book of Ruth proclaimed at a wedding. It's not in the Catholic rite of options, but anyway. But where do they go? They leave Moab and they go to Naomi's roots, which is in Bethlehem. So that it just all comes together. So there's Mayan Lil Hayat, the community Together for Life. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Where your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And they're going to Bethlehem for that. And so this is where our community that we support is. Anyway, I thought that was a great coincidence when I was thinking about all that. And reacquaints you with the book of Ruth, maybe. So I thought it's worth sharing on the chat. So anyway, we collected over $4,000 for that relief effort. And if you want to give digitally without a check, you can do that on through the website. Okay, I think maybe I did mention that. This coming Saturday, trunk or treat. So I think we have some great volunteers. They're going to open their trunks and have candy and have costumes on and things. Expect the Munsingers to be there, and Shirley, and probably a whole bunch of others, and Cerny's and Eberts. I'm trying to think, Ms. Rosine. I'm trying to think who's usually. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting people that will probably be there. But it's always a fun event. It's going to be from 2:30 till 4. And Beth said, bring your coats because it's going to be cold. Okay, high of 40 or something on Saturday. I don't know. But that's fun. Thanks for doing that. It brings a lot of joy and spirit to some of our families, so that's great. Anniversary party's coming up just around the corner. Looking out our back door, it's going to be November 11th, so Veterans Day. On the Saturday night, Mass, be pretty much a regular Mass, might make some allusions to the parish history, 75th anniversary, and then after that will be a party. And if you go, you'll have a good time and good food, and you'll get a free glass. I brought it on the chat about 2 months ago. It's one of those sort of wine glass kind of things, but prune juice, anything would work in there just fine. It has no stem. It's just kind of a shape. I don't know. It's shaped sort of like an egg, not really. But it's just one piece. It's just a little bit flat on the bottom. Otherwise, kind of rounded and then comes up. It's about as big as my fist. And I like it. And embossed on it, it says St. James the Greater Parish. So, anyway, so that's a big anniversary coming up. And that same weekend, we'll have our Masses of Remembrance. So we'll read the names of everybody whose funeral we had in the past year, from All Souls Day 2022 to All Souls Day 2023. All Souls Day being November 2nd. We would have that on November 4th, 5th, but I will be in Oregon presiding at a good friend's son's wedding. So we'll have our Masses of Remembrance on November 11th and 12th. We'll read all those names. Family members will all be invited by letter. And then after we read those names and candles are lit in those people's memory, then I'll invite anybody who wants to come up to light a candle and tell me the name to speak over my microphone. The idea is people that died within the last year. So not just who died, like any time. So that'll be in a couple weeks. What is that? 2.5 weeks. And then backing up a little bit on All Saints Day, we'll have Mass at, this is November 1st, so Wednesday, with the school community at 9 o'clock and with the parish community at 6:45. And we'll try to do something interesting. We'll gather with the religious ed community around a fire on the ninth fairway of our disc golf course on the lawn in front of church, and have a fire, and we'll remember those who died and pray for them, talk a little bit about saints, and then Nick will lead us in some song as we process into church to begin Mass. So I think that'll be really, potentially very nice. We'll see. Might be like herding cats. I don't know. Had a kids' Mass today, or a school Mass. Oh, I didn't bring the text. It was a complicated text. It was for St. Paul from Romans, talking about don't be a slave to your body, but obey the Lord. And but I kind of reduced it to like actually sang a little Bob Dylan song. It may be the devil, or it may be the Lord, but you gotta serve somebody. Serve somebody. Yeah, you gotta serve somebody. It may be the devil, or it may be the Lord, but you gotta serve somebody. So, and we just talked about, I just asked her, what's the difference between serving the devil or serving the Lord, you know? And they had some really good answers, thankfully, because I didn't know if it would go anywhere. But you know, the things of the Lord. Serving the Lord will lead you to eternal life, one of them said. Serving the Lord will bring you happiness. Serving the devil will make you feel guilty. And we talked about how something, you know, it wasn't just couched all in terms of devil. It's kind of like good and bad. How do you know the difference between good and bad, you know? And I really like that when they kind of moved to, well, when you do bad, you feel guilty. And I said, yeah, why do we do it if it makes us feel bad? And they're like, well, it doesn't make you feel bad right away. I think that's true, right? So you eat a chocolate bar, and, well, that's not a great idea. Well, you eat your brother's chocolate bar. You eat someone else's candy that they're saving and is valuable to them, and just in the moment it feels good, you know. And, oh yeah, but then you know what you've done, and the thrill of the chocolate wears off, and you feel bad. If you got a good conscience, that's a problem these days, right? You always hope everyone has a conscience where they can actually do feel bad when they do bad, and they feel good when they do good. But we can't take that for granted always, right? That's why it's a little bit dangerous that we're always just our own barometer for thermometer. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. If we create our own standard just by how I feel, sometimes maybe our conscience gets a little warped and we feel good when we do bad, and the guilt doesn't creep in to correct us. You know, guilt is, you know, it's meant to help us. You know, it's meant to help us get us on the right track. It gets such a bad press, like Catholic guilt, or you know, shame is bad. I think there's a difference. Guilt is things you've done, you realize were wrong, and you feel bad about it, and you try to make amends. And what's bad about that? That's just good, right? That's good, healthy living, I think. Shame is like that. I'm bad. I did that. I'm no good. Or I initially maybe it's guilt, and you have a hard time accepting forgiveness, and so it just never goes away. It just sort of clings to you, And that's too bad. I think when people talk about Catholic guilt, that's sort of what they mean. It's like you're never good enough. You're just hard to find a lot of joy in life because you're always reminded of what you do wrong. And hopefully that's not a hallmark of Catholicism. And it's obviously some people's experience, or it wouldn't come up. But we certainly preach forgiveness and new beginnings. That's the good news. That's the gospel, right? And of course, we try to make amends. People we've hurt, right? Not be glib about forgiveness. Book. Oh, I got a book. Ta-da! So, Thunder in the Soul. Isn't that a great title? Thunder in the Soul, to be known by God, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. I believe he died in the 1970s. He marched Selma with Martin Luther King and others. He wrote he's a rabbi and a scholar. He's from Poland. Let me just read the back. This will be the last Tuesday in November. I think it's the 28th. It's after Thanksgiving, that Tuesday at 6:30. It says, so I'll just pull this up and read it. Like the Hebrew prophets before him, the great American rabbi and civil rights leader Abraham Joshua Heschel reveals God's concern for this world and each of us. Descended from a long line of Orthodox rabbis, Heschel fled Europe to escape the Nazis. He made the insights of traditional Jewish spirituality come alive while speaking out boldly against war and racial injustice. Heschel brought the fervor of prophets to his role as a public intellectual. He challenged the sensibilities of the modern West, which views science and human reason as sufficient. Only by rediscovering wonder and awe before mysteries that transcend knowledge can we hope to find God again. This God, Heschel says, is not distant, but passionately concerned about our lives and human affairs, and asks something of us in return. This little book, it is pretty slim, and the print isn't, so it's pretty handleable if you're worried about reading it. This little book, which brings together Heschel's key insights on a range of topics, will reinvigorate readers of any faith who hunger and wonder and thirst for justice. I always wanted to get into him. When I did my postgraduate study year out in California, I was scrambling which classes to take, and there was a seminar on him. And I went and I sat in on it. And I was really interested in him, but the class didn't seem that great. And the one that I really wanted that was full opened up, and I got a slot in it. So I didn't take the class. But so now's my chance to get a little bit exposure to what he thought and his thoughts. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what you guys are probably more aware. I might be a little more aware than most of you about the Synod in the Vatican. You might be a little more aware than I am about the war in Gaza if you've been watching a lot of TV. But I'll tell you something that really inspired me. I don't mean to make everything's okay and everything's nice, but I thought it was a very beautiful moment in the midst of a lot of horror. So did you hear about Yocheved Lifshitz? Yocheved Lifshitz is the 85-year-old woman. She was the third or fourth hostage released. She was an Israeli woman, 85 years old. And they interviewed her afterwards, and she wasn't glib about what she experienced. She just said it was a living hell to be abducted like that and taken into the darkness and blindfolded. And I do not believe she was tortured, but just extremely frightened to be taken in captivity like that. And yet the footage I saw, and I didn't hear anyone, maybe I just missed it, I didn't hear anyone comment on this, but I thought it was the most beautiful thing. So they had the Hamas guys with the guns and the blindfolds with her, handing her over to, I think it was the Red Cross. And when she left them, she turned and she held out her hands to the guy with the gun, and he held her hands, and they held their hands together, and she said, "Shalom, Shalom," and he nodded, and they let go. Shalom, of course, means peace. It means hello and goodbye, but it basically means peace. And I thought, boy, to go through all that, and then to still have love in your heart, I thought it was just awesome. So those kind of things give me hope that in the midst of all this, there can be peace. So, Yehovah, you're my hero of the week. So, let's see. I see my brother just called me. He came and said, you got a call from Glenn. Mom went to the dentist today. Glenn took her out to the dentist, first time in 9 months. So, Mom's doing okay. People are asking, thanks for asking. You know, she's in a memory care unit now. Maybe it's because she's getting used to it, or maybe some brain cells are healing a little bit, but I feel like she's improving. I feel like she has a more clarity that she's not as sharp as she used to be. I think before it was just, she'll be kind of a little confused, like, well, I gotta say, I really don't know what's going on here, or where I'm going, or what's going on. And she'll just kind of hold up her hands, like, just kind of accepting that. But we went to some apple orchards this week on Monday, and I said, let's go to those apple orchards again. We went there a couple of weeks ago, and she said, yeah, I said, do you remember that? I expected absolutely not. I don't like to quiz her, like, do you remember? Because I just assume she doesn't. But she said, was that the one with all the cows? And I was like, yeah. We kind of got lost on this one dirt road. I thought there'd be a shop that sold apples, but it was just like a kiosk near the road. And so we went past that into the orchard, and we're driving around, and then all these cows surrounded us, and she remembered that. I thought, well, that's nice. You can complicated ideas are a little beyond her to kind of talk about, I think. But I think she's, not in love with the place where she's living, not exactly sure everything that's going on, but I think certainly content and gracious and able to laugh at times. So it's good. What is this? Okay. Oh, you guys, I thought this was, oh no. Well, you lucked out. It's going to be a shorter chat. I thought this was my, I had some things written about the Synod and things written about the Gaza war, but maybe just what I told you about the war is good. The Vatican for years has held out that there should be a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and there's being more voices raised, like that's the only thing that will bring a lasting peace. I hope that gets some traction. They haven't been really pushing for that so much lately. There's been kind of letting the settler movement kind of run rampant, unchecked, even though it's been against Israeli law, so just taking more and more land that was allotted to the Palestinians, and just claiming it as their own and backed by the army, and so we'll see if they can halt that a little bit. And I've heard there's even violence. The settlers are just, because they were so angry at that awful massacre on October 7th, that they're just taking out their rage on innocent Palestinians where they live. It's just one thing I think was humble and good when I've heard different foreign policy people say that Americans have been advising. Can you hear the marching band practice? But maybe not. Mostly the drums. Anyway, they said maybe you could learn some lessons from 9/11. We were we let anger drive our decisions after 9/11, and kind of led us into some things that we made some unwise decisions to kind of seek immediate and forceful revenge. And so some of that may be what's going on. To be able to absorb the violence and the violation and the gross violation of human dignity and life, all those things we heard about, and not just react with murderous revenge, takes some reflection. And but I think that's the way forward, because you just wonder how things will end. Just a whole society may be crushed, and then there will be peace. It's not really peace. There'll be their inability to fight may be diminished for a while, but the resentment will just breed and seethe, and then so it's just a hard thing, peacemaking. But I really hope maybe that Mrs. Lipschitz's example will help So there's that, and then the Synod, it's wrapping up. There's just a few more days, and I read an article today, like, the Synod's importance isn't so much like decisions will be made, and they said there won't be any decisions made after this Synod, maybe next year. But I think I mentioned in a chat a couple of weeks ago about the spiritual conversations that they're having, and they said really the value of this is showing the way for like faith communities to talk to one another about people that disagree about things. Sit around a table, pray before you speak. So I think maybe I shared what it was. So you're supposed to pray for a half hour. You know what the topic's going to be. You pray for a half hour. Lord, what would you like me to say? Then you speak it to the 6 or 7 or 8 people at your table. And then you let go of what you said, and you listen intently and actively to the people that say theirs things. And then you pause for, 15 minutes silence, just kind of what spoke to me and what other people said. And then you reconvene and you share that, and then you get a chance to have another time of silence. And so, I don't know if the opportunity for us to ever practice that will arrive, but in a way, that's how we pray at the staff every day. It's every week. It's called, communal discernment. And it's just so important to know that it's about what I liked about it. This whole thing is about communion. How do we live in communion? So the Eucharist is our communion, right? And for it to really have full impact, it should affect how we live, right? It's not just this moment. Here, you can hear it now. You must hear that, right? The wind must just be blowing in the right direction. So communion. So how do we live in communion in everyday life? It's by trusting that everybody has something to say, and to try to understand everybody, and to really listen. And the challenge of communion, of course, is to be in communion with people that are very different from you. There are people that think very differently from you. And we celebrate that moment in our Eucharist when we come to Mass. And I can guarantee you, people that you're sharing communion with, they all don't have the same opinions you do about the war, the politics, whatever. But it's a beautiful moment, just precisely because of that. But extending that out of church can be harder. It's beautiful to have that moment in church where we can just sort of suspend our differences and break the bread together. But the work of it, I remember we have a parishioner named Val, and we were, it was, I forget what the topic was, but it was like Eau Claire Church. There were about 50 of us in a room at Immaculate Conception. It was before the meeting even started, and he was talking to a woman who was giving her views about, healthcare or something, some divisive topic of the day, and I kind of knew he had a different opinion, and he just said he wasn't nervous at all. I was getting kind of tense, and he said, "Well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. I'd like to understand where you're coming from on that." And just really calmly, and she did, and he just took it in. I don't feel like he was compelled to say what he thought or why he thought that was right or wrong, but it was just the spirit of understanding, and that's very much in the spirit of this Synod. So maybe I'll leave it at that, and let you enjoy this view for a second. Pretty nice, isn't it? Maybe you can hear the marching band. I don't know. Okay. This is that spot, by the way, that new sidewalk spur that they put on the trail just west of Half Moon Lake. Carson Park over there, and Lakeside Cemetery up there. Rod and Gun Club right there. Loving God, you made this beautiful world. We see the seasons change before our eyes. Trees losing their leaves, and the lakes changing temperature, birds flying in different directions. It's easy to see your harmony when we live in nature. Everything that you made fitting together. Maybe the hardest things for what you made to fit together are us. Help us live in communion with each other. Doesn't mean we all have to have the same opinions. It doesn't mean we all have to think the right things, but it does mean we should seek to understand and to love one another. We don't have to agree with people in order to love them, or them us. Give us the strength to be peacemakers in our world, just as your rain falls upon everyone. Let our love and our goodwill fall out toward everyone. Amen. God bless you, everybody.